and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. So hello there everyone, and welcome to another one of my sacred meditation circles. I'm holding another space for a very spontaneous video topic, and it will be regards to what is currently happening on our planet again. Today, during my morning practice, I like to sometimes watch videos when I do my daily routine chores. And this video popped up that I somehow want to mention, but I don't want to go into deeply because I don't want to really, I don't want my YouTube channel to be shut down as well. And if that ever happens, that it wasn't me because I would never do that. And I just really don't want to go too deeply into these things because there's already people, beautiful people, very courageous, brave souls who are doing that kind of work. And when I meditated after watching this, and I was really in this council meeting with my own high council guidance and with the angelics, and I've been asking what's my space in this, what's my position, how I can share and uplift, and how I can assist with this. They've simply said absolutely nothing, nothing that I'm not already doing. So, as you know, everyone has a specific position with whatever is happening and unfolding on our planet at this time. And we have to really get clear in what kind of way we already assist, because sometimes we can get too lost with things right now because there's so much happening and so much information is coming and buzzing, and for a lot of us, we work day and night. Sometimes I don't sleep well, which is particularly true for the last few weeks, because when the energies start to, just really amp up, it just gets too much, okay? So I have my tea here with me, and I want to do these videos more like a conversation, like a friendly conversation in which I invite you as well to join in with your hearts, with your prayers, with your intentions. So this was very spontaneous recently, these videos, where I can share with you more on what I have received from the Lumen Council of Light and from the angelics that also can assist you in better connecting with yourself. So in that first kind of like very spontaneous, impromptu, right, video meditation circle, we talked about which essences to invoke, how can we connect to the guidance. So the next step is, during all these things that are happening on our planet at this time, to know our specific position. So this will be our topic today, as well as I will more deeply explain, what I'm going to be talking about, what was the whole, the whole reason that actually triggered me into making this video today. I will be talking about this as well. So a very important thing in everything that's happening right now at this time is that we can quickly jump into doing something that maybe we're not supposed to do. And when you specifically invoke your guidance, you ask your team to help you, to guide you. And when I say the team, I don't refer to the false side, which for a lot of people can step up because they still have patterns and they're being controlled and they don't recognize. So the guidance I'm talking about here is the guidance that really serves the light of truth, the light of illumined truth. So you can always state that. If I haven't, addressed that enough, which I think I have, but just in case people don't know, or they may be watching for the first time, this is the most important thing to always invoke. So when you already know your group, you're already involved, but still, even though it is always best to really determine what serves what. So it's not just like waking up to the light. Okay, there's, many degrees of the light. There's also what we call the light that masks itself. It's really the shadow, but it masks itself as light. And there's many examples like that. And I will do, as you know, a free mastery course on this. It's coming up very soon. Working on it as we speak. But just, for the record, what I want to imply here is that it's very important at this time to be in connection with the guidance that flows through our proper discernment, so that whatever we receive in terms of where we are, what's your position, what's best for us to do will really come from a guidance that's sovereign. The only way to truly recognize a guidance that is sovereign is that we become sovereign ourselves, which means that we recognize the false tricks, how we can be tricked or fooled into aspects of the light that really don't serve the truth, which is unity consciousness. That's the only truth in which we really all unify. So the topic I'm going to be talking about today is something that is actually so deeply disturbing, and yet we're now in the midst of it all. As you know, there were so many changes that were prophesied for this time in terms of the great apocalypse, or this will be happening, the great unveiling, you know, and even the nature changes or changes that would be happening on the planet. However, there is a false tendency now at this time for people to presume too fast that changes that are happening now are all natural, which they are not. As you know, we live in a way that we are so controlled, we are so manipulated, we are so part of this system, you know. And it was funny, once I asked two completely unaware people, because we're talking about the system, and I said, well, what is the system anyway for you? And they said, well, the system is us. And I'm like, no, you're the ones that are being servants to the system, but you're definitely not the system, because the system comes from a few select individuals who are playing the game their own way, and they want to control things to be a certain way so they can have, as you know, a great overview of the populace, so they can have it in control, they can have everything under their own supervision and liking. So for them to do that, they're taking the proper initiatives and steps that would somehow make that happen in their own way. There's many plans, many agendas. I'm not going to go into specific names because there's all on YouTube or everywhere. Google, research it. And the fact that I'm saying this now is because these things are happening now, and you know there's fires happening in America, in California, which are not natural. They were created, and this video, which I watched today, is the initiative. There's an organization, I don't know the name, I think it's Prevent the Crime, something like that. They're an organization that really bravely face these things, that research behind all these initiatives. And I won't give you the details because they're the ones actually doing this work, so you can find this video online. I think it's very viral. And the thing is that, sorry, a lot of the mass illusions have to deal with people thinking, oh, it's all natural, and it's not. So there's people who are so much a part of these projects, they're going deep into the research, and they're right at the center of it, so they actually know what's happening. And because of that, they're bringing forth the knowledge that, you know, brings awareness to people. However, there's people who still don't understand this, that how much everything is now developed through technologies, that if someone wants, I don't know, to create something overnight, they will do it. Because the way they called it, how we're being attacked, there's literally, a word for it, and it's called weaponized weather control. And it's not just what we see now, chemtrails, mass spraying. As you know, there is a big initiative to kill off trees. I've witnessed it this summer for the first time, because you know how connected I am to nature. I've seen trees that were completely burned, or pine trees that just had signs of burning. And there's all these, as you know, toxic pollutants that are part of this spraying. And you know, these pollutants go in our bodies as well, and they create kind of substances that go into the soil, into the water, and all of that. So this is only one thing happening. So behind all this, right, is, because there's many things, they're all globally connected. They're all one thing leading to another, and they're all part of the great plan to unify us, but through separation, if you know what I mean. So divide and conquer. And because of all that, if people are not aware, they're not going to see. They're going to have this veiled vision. And when I go sometimes out in a particular city or somewhere, for me, it's like once you wake up to what is actually happening, it's like everything else is hazy. And it's like you're looking at it from a looking glass. It's like Alice, right? And the looking glass. And you're just looking at it all, and it feels like it's like a facade, and it's like a charade. It's being played. And it's funny because the people are just doing their chores every day, wake up, go to my job, do this, eat that, drink that, and then watch TV, watch this and that, and then it's over. So for a very minimum percent of the people, they're actually activists. They're actually actively involved in what's happening. These are the key players on our planet at this time. So you know, and you probably do know. There's also those of us who work behind the scenes. We're not directly involved, and yet we are. And the first thing I want to say is that the reason why even if something is chosen as a primary, it's kind of like a setting ground, that's what they were showing me today, is there certain locations that were chosen from a higher perspective as playgrounds for this certain, it's almost like a karmic entanglement, like this greater creation story to play out. And even though they're playing out, maybe what we say, oh, it's playing out in the United States now, you know, there's the majority of everything coming up there. It's like, it's still affecting the whole world. That's why if someone else on the other part of the planet will try to get liberated, they're going to come and they will try to, you know, it's like eliminate them, because as you know now, everything is global. As someone liberates themselves or they try to liberate their people, let's say another country, they're going to say, ooh, they're doing that. We don't want everyone to see that. So we go there. We tell them we're the boss. You don't get to do that, right? Even if it's a totally different country, like miles and miles away. So everything now is so connected. And it's funny that people are not aware that if something happens in another country and you can say, oh, that doesn't concern me, I'm just going to take care of my own safety and well-being. People are missing the point that for us to, you know, be unified through unity, not through this separation, which is, you know, divide and conquer and rule over, right? Through control and have everything in your own domain, right? We really have to see what's happening. First, we need to see that there's two streams of globalism. One is the globalism to control, and the other one is the globalism for unity, which is everything now is connected. Information can come through all streams. You know, it can leak out just about anywhere, and everyone can be now the messenger. Everyone can be the spokesperson for the truth. Okay, so what they were showing me today, that there is no such thing anymore. Like, these are safe spaces, these are not safe spaces. This is happening there. Whew, I'm safe. I don't have to deal with this. I only have to take care of me and my family. They've shown me that we're now past beyond this threshold of this unique safety that only you can have if you're, let's say, in one country that's not very interesting or something. Like, I live in one of the smallest countries of the planet, you know, and particularly we might not really seem as very interesting. And I can tell you, I live in a small village, and what started to happen in this village is just the same narrative that's happening everywhere else, maybe on a minor scale. But we have weather attacks. We've had them as well. I've noticed the non-natural weather patterns. And this is what concerns me. You know, when New Agey people say, oh, it's all Gaia, her purging, you know, blah, blah, blah. When the earth actually does things to her own release, she's very gentle about it. And it's not necessarily to damage people in a controlled way. And it's never like that, basically. So when this occurs with a specific agenda behind it, and a part of this, what's happening now in America, is to get people out of rural places. It's hard for me to pronounce that. And to create platforms of living that they could be in control of and say, look, we have the alternatives now. You don't have any other options, come here. So that they could have control over. And, you know, you can do the research yourself. And the thing is, when I was asking today what we can do about it, because it does concern all of us, and the answer was nothing in particular, that didn't mean in the way the angelics have stepped up that, oh, you're powerless beings, you can't do anything. But they were sharing about how important it is now for each of us to first be aware of it. So that's why I'm telling you, do the research on yourself. And the video, I think it's called The Plan, the Intentional Plan, you know, to burn up this place and how and all of it, it's all out there. And there's more plans that, you know, would continue as well. And it's just one thing. That's just one thing. And, you know, I mentioned the false weather control and the weather manipulation for a long time, and how it borders now to, you know, aspects of the genocide. I think just this week, my mother told me she read an article about them doing the experiments with, what was it, you know, the new kind of speed of the wireless, right? The 5, right? The 5th version. Whew. So I think they had this report that I don't know how many birds were actually killed because of that experiment. I don't know, because I don't know how much the media covers the truth. I don't know. I'm just telling you that from this perspective of, we're already aware of this. We know that there are certain frequencies that really, they do bad things with our brain. They mess things up, and not just the brain. They go deep into our cellular structure. and they can, they can totally mess up our cellular configuration, the way our bodies function, right? Our cellular makeup, basically. So all these agendas, there's so many of them, they're all interconnected, and they're not just set in a certain platform in a certain country. There's just the source of it all. But the way we're globally connected means it affects all of us. So even with things happening, like, back a few years with the Fukushima, it's like people were saying how these currents, were carried out through everywhere, basically, through the currents. We have winds, we have water, everything connects us. Basically, we are a water planet. So therefore, there's also, as you know, many agendas that talk about us not having enough water and, propagating water scarcity. And in this video, it's very well explained how you have, what's it called? There's primary water, right? There's a secondary water. I don't have it written here. But the primary water is what you come to see through waterfalls, right? The water that's always in circulation. And the secondary is water with rain, right? Precipitation or snowfall. And there's a lot of charades here happening as well. So people get scared and they start moving towards the city, right? Because they can be controlled in the cities, because cities are basically like boxes, put people in boxes, and that's why I would never live in a city anymore. So we think now, okay, we're safe if we go into a rural place, right? And we're just going to get our own farm, or we're going to grow in our food. And yeah, we can take a lot of measurements. But this is not what I want to talk about here in this video specifically. What I want to talk about first is the safety that we build on our own, which is becoming the sovereign integral being. It's the only way. And even in those interviews I've shared with you a while ago with Dr. Neruda and the Wingmakers Project, he was also saying that even they, the Wingmakers were stating that it doesn't help fighting, rebelling, going in the streets, because you just get knocked down. You have to work from inside out. You have to become your own mission agent, so to say. So what that means is taking care of your body as if it is your first house. And I've talked to you because my perspective is first and foremost spiritual, which means it comes from the inside out. It doesn't talk about the tools you require for you to survive on the outside, because we're not here just for that. Those of you on the path of ascension, you are here to create your new bodies. And these bodies are the most resilient bodies. So I was actually laughing because the protocol here, right, what they're supposed to create, what they want to create with these agendas is sort of resilient, smart cities, right? They're all resilient, where it's natural made catastrophes or disasters, and it's all planned anyway. So again, the agenda is control. So for us to become resilient and sovereign from within, we have to do the work with our body. So of course, the measurements to be taken outside of ourselves are important first. Like I said, the first factor here is knowing that we're all connected, that everything concerns all of us. So when I see things like that happening, I get sad. For a moment, I get in it. I feel the feelings. I feel what that wave of energy expression is going through, and I will feel in myself. And all serving souls who serve unity will feel that. Doesn't mean we get lost in that, but we will feel it because we're here to assist. What I want to talk about today is how you do it in your own way. You don't necessarily all have to be, I don't know, speaking about these things publicly, or donating to shelters, things like that. It's more about finding your own part, your own placement in this bigger picture, what's happening. And first and foremost, realize that everything nowadays can happen to anyone. And because of that, when you realize and you say, oh, that's happening so far away here in the planet, can it happen to me? It's like, if it happens there, it can happen to you. That's true meaning of globalism through unity, not duality. Right? Duality says, poor suckers, right? Look what they're going through there. No. Unity means like you can identify with whatever it's happening because it is happening to the whole planet. When your planetary chakras and your collective consciousness is fully active, which means your body translates on that level and it connects to unity principles to all these aspects, and you can be attuned to mass consciousness throughout the planet, wherever you are, regardless of your position on the planet right now. And because of that, you have this deeper sense of compassion. However, because sometimes the lower center still pull us down, we can get lost, right? And that, oh, what are we to do? Or we're panicking. Or the other extreme is, it cannot happen to me, right? Is that notion of ignorance, right? It's like total separation. So what's the fine line here? This is what they wanted me to talk about today. And this is when I did the channel guidance. When I asked them, they said, absolutely nothing I can do. And they didn't mean you're powerless, doesn't concern you, no. But they meant in a way of nothing you can do that you're not already doing. Okay, so when I share messages, I can't share them the way that people who are actually doing the work on that level. So what I do instead, and that's kind of like my thing, is to synthesize things, to see the bigger perspective. And this is what I do also in my channeling. So in today's channel, they have shown me, because of that which they said, that there's absolutely nothing that personally I can do or get more involved or whatever. And what that means is they were showing me the bigger picture behind it. So this is what I was shown. You probably already know that. And I think I've talked about this a few years ago. In the past, eons ago, we can say eons, doesn't matter. Time is, right? It's a spiraling notion. And there's cycles that before something is within that cycle complete, it will repeat. And right now, the stage that was selected for the Atlantean karma that was not basically integrated fully is now playing itself out, especially in the United States of America. There's other aspects, of course, because they're all linked in, but the grand stage is happening there. So the guidance that came through today was the reason why we can't do anything in terms of changing it, preventing it, right? It's like people who are sharing this and bringing all to awareness, they're already doing their part. That's what they're doing it. You have to understand the nature of divine plan is it's fluid. It's not like, oh, it's preset, it's fixed. And yet in this fluidity, we all have our own space. We all have our own way. Okay, the way we serve, the way we're positioned, it's already perfect. So if you're physically not in that position, it's because you've chosen it this way, but you're still in position in your own way. So what they have revealed to me is that this simply has to evolve. It has to unfold, right? That's why it's happening. So they have told me there's a minimum risk here at hand, but the risk is worth taking in terms of what that will bring about, what the change that people will move through because of that will bring. They were showing me that the people who are incarnated in the United States of America are brilliant people. You know, I'm talking about the whole populace. But as you know, people who are in America, basically they're not Americans. The Native Americans were the true Americans. So people were actually coming from whole spectrums and mostly from Europe, but other spaces as well. So America is the most mixed place that you can have nowadays. And because of that, it means their DNA mission match, right? So because of that, they have so many attributes that come through the mixture of DNA. They have a bigger DNA or gene pool. And because of that, people in the United States are very open, and you'll have most of my clients, I think people who come and sometimes even work with me or buy my courses, most of them are from the United States. These people are more aware. So the United States has, I think, even the highest percentage of incoming souls, such as starseed beings and beings who are here to assist from within, from the human bodies, and not just from the outside perspective. So the United States, what they've shown me is it's like the center stage where this is now unfolding, and this was chosen so. And this is something we can't change in terms of, oh, let's prevent it. In that sense, we can't prevent certain things. So there always is, from a higher perspective, a minimum risk, and there's always risk involved in projects of life, always, right? So you would say, oh, the dark side is taking risk, well, the light is the same. And we have to see now beyond. That's what they're showing me. Oh, the light is doing this, the dark is doing that. Because if there is enough of us holding the space for unity, means we're bringing the attribute of that unity into the collective pool. So some of us are only here to hold the energy, because in such chaos and so many things, informational infusion, things, events, they're actually, when I see them happening in real time, they're happening so fast that sometimes people don't even have space to rest. especially people who now watch the news, they can't like, oh, it's like, oh, one day after the other, so much happening, right? And you might say, well, it was always like this. Yeah, it was, but not like now. Nowadays, you know, a lot is being like pulled under the rug. A lot is being unveiled, but also in real time, there's so many simulations happening simultaneously. It's almost like it doesn't give you a break. It doesn't give your brain a break. You know, it doesn't give your brain time to rest, to actually see. And because of that, people can see the bigger perspective. That's what they show me. That's one thing. Because it's all happening so fast, you don't have a time to think, oh, this crisis here, oh, this crisis there. And a lot of them is also hoaxes, but people get so in what's actually happening that they can't see the bigger picture. They can't connect to divine guidance. They can't see a bigger plan behind it, right? So they just jump from one thing to the other, and it's too much. So those of us who are actually here more to anchor this peace, it's not just like, oh, be in peace and all else does not concern you, like the old idea of gurus who only work on themselves, which is a little selfish, right? Truly, that's how we see it, right? But they also had their reasons why they did, so they could master themselves on that level before they could even assist a greater whole, right? So there's a reason for everything, even what we perceive as selfish in this time, right? Because we only see a limited portion of what's actually taking place, let's say within one lifetime or in what's happening in general on our planet. So they were showing me that because we have such a limited perspective, we always want to change things. We want to prevent things. We want to like, oh, this shouldn't be happening. This is dark. This is evil. This is bad, right? So when I was listening actually to Dr. Neruda's interviews, he was stating over and over, because the woman who was doing the interview, who he was doing the interview with, because he needed a questioner, right? So that you can channel actually what comes through. And she kept saying, this is so evil. Why are these so evil? And he kept saying, there is no such thing. That's in the human mind. From their perspective, they're thinking they're doing the right thing. That's just the way they do things, you know. So we say, well, lives are lost in between. And again, they would say, yeah, they are viewing to take that risk in terms of their plan happening or being utilized. That's how they see things. So like I said, the light takes risk, the dark also takes risk, because from the ultimate perspective, it's like there is no such thing. So if you want to be sovereign, you first have to break through the illusion of light versus dark, this battling. Because this battling will always leave you in terms of, it will leave you within the program of duality, so you can't step out of it. You can't see things observing. You will never get messages that are being held at the illumined level, where there's a higher reason behind everything. There's a higher plan. Doesn't mean it's all perfect, no. But there is a plan of unfolding. And even within that plan, there's different levels or variables of risk, which we, from our own human calculations, we can do. So these calculations are coming from a much higher perspective, where these beings are busy with just that. So let's say how we're busy with our daily tasks, chores, routines, they're busy with holding a much larger vista at hand. So when I sometimes connect with my Illumined Council, sometimes they won't say anything and they will feel very busy or absent. It's because they're handling such important things, and sometimes they're like with the heads like this and they don't always know what to do. But there is this wisdom that it's still, even though we don't always have the answers, something is being initiated. There's something is being, moved in a certain way for a specific reason. So like from our reason, we don't have the whole vantage point. We don't see everything. Even let's say on the level of the Illumined Council, they also don't, but they see as much as they need to, so their mission is intact. So we have to take care of ourselves now on earth to do our part, to do our bidding. This is what they were showing me. So they were showing me why people in the United States are so well aware. They're very strong people. They're people who already know how to connect. I tell you the example of my own country. People are not that aware, okay? We're a small country and people are still very much focused on trivial things. And when I compare with people in the United States, especially people who are part of this movement, right? Consciousness movement, they're very highly intelligent people. They're aware souls because they need to be, because that was the chosen playground for this unfoldment. And I've shared with you before, I think my mother read this book once, a woman channeled, I think it was a memory, and she said back in Atlantis, everything was recreated, even trees, light, everything was like false. It was all artificially created. So now with all this mass agenda, it's not just killing trees, everything is falling down. I've seen, because I signed these petitions, I don't know, there's just one aspect, but still, I've seen one of the petitions was that you actually can get prizes to kill wildlife. And you have to ask yourself, why would it be even so important for them to kill off trees? Why it's so important for them to kill in mass? Here we have these laws, right, for foresters. You have to kill, I don't know how many thousands of deer per year. I think not just deer. Which animal? Stag. You know, a stag is like such a high spiritual essence coming through. And it's almost like they knew how much animals hold the grid together, because animals are, from a shamanic point of view, they hold the grid. So if you don't know anything about this, I really advise you to read Barbara Hand Clow's books, especially the Mind Chronicles, right? All these lifetime sessions and regressions. It's beautiful. All the wisdom shared there. So because of all of that, we're now under such immense pressure. And the only way that we can actually illuminate ourselves, and this is what they were showing me, because there's so much toxicity with our thoughts, the speed of things and events happening, us being bombarded with everything. Like I said, some of us don't get enough sleep because even at nighttime we work. And sometimes this makes us restless, or sometimes even hyperactive. And we get this feeling like, oh, we always have to work, and we're not always helping this way. Okay, so first thing, get centered into what's your position in this. Second of all, you don't have to put yourself in the risk that you think would make you a liability in that way, you know, so that you become a factor that, what I want to say here, that the risk has to come through balance, that you also are served in this, that you don't give yourself away and then do something stupid or irrational. But the thing is, there has to be wisdom. There has to be wisdom the way we approach these things, because otherwise we're not going to get it. We're not going to see what's really happening, okay? The second thing I shared is realize the nature of true globalism, which is globally connected in unity, how everything touches every one of us, how it concerns all of us, right? And not just like coming with aid, but realizing the bigger picture. What's happening here is, even though it's happening in that country, it's a part of the collective human soul karmic cycle playing out. So they were showing me that America will, or the United States, sorry, will set the stage for this. That's why it's so important what's happening now there. And that's why we can't make certain things not happen, because they have to happen. And there's a risk involved there. But from a higher perspective, that risk was initiated, because it would bring about the kind of change that would kind of create the wave that's necessary. So there's always, like, you know, like I said, if what you call the dark, and again, that's just from our perspective, if one side does this step, then the other side does its step as well. So it's almost like taking steps, one step here, one step there. So we have to be the ones who are in the middle. We have to not be involved with these decision-making processes, but what we are here to do as individuals who are walking the path of true physical ascension, not going somewhere in our heads. I've shared this with you before. People who are jumping off and seeing life only as perfect and, oh, it's so good. These people are hazy. They're not grounded. Their life force cannot serve the planet at all. They've jumped into forms of and means of escapism that sometimes it's so radical that sometimes people can't even come back. You know, it's not funny. These things literally happen. So we have to get in our bodies and realize, what does it mean to be a new embodiment of the sovereign being? So one thing is to be intuitively connected with safety for you, knowing your space, because there is what they're showing me. We used to have like these safe spots. Yeah, but they're still temporary. There is no permanent safe spot. Okay, so when you work with your intuition, knowing where you are, how it serves you, is there weird energies there, is it weird people, whatever it is. I've been feeling for a while now that where I am now, I will not be living here anymore, because it's not safe anymore either, and it's not good, and the energies have shifted since I've come here, and this is in the process as well. But the most important thing I want to talk about here today is, even though we know about the agenda, right, to put people in certain boxes so we can control them, and it's almost like in manufactured way, right? Controlled cities, controlled environments, where everything, the currencies, right? The currencies are globalized. They had this agenda for eons, you know, to globalize the currency, and, you know, even modern things like cryptocurrency. they're not showing me this as very positive. And I know that people would like to think that it sounds good, but not everything that sounds good is a part of the bigger plan that works for something that's tangible, that we can actually have overview, you know, that we can oversee. And if it's something that all becomes electronic in a certain way, it gets filtered or imbued too much with AI. It's too much artificial intelligence. For me, I always say no, thank you, because that's in itself is control. So the last thing I want to talk about that they were showing me is I've already said, right, that people in United States, they have a very wide spectrum of abilities because their DNA is so multiplex. It's just so diverse because they're a melting pot of so many people coming there and creating this, the new land, right? The promised land. Boy, probably didn't know what all's going to happen there when they signed up for that project. But from a higher perspective, we all do. But what I want to say here is that they have a big role to play, and we do as well because we're connected. Okay, so we knew exactly where we wanted to be or where we wanted to be embodied. That's what they were showing me. The next thing is in terms of protection, that's inner protection, that's self-protection. In this video, I actually saw a mentioning of us assisting ourselves with crystals. You already know the orgonite technology, you know, it's for EMF, for the frequencies, right, that come out of our devices and wireless and all of that. Whew, and if we ever get to the 5th version of that, mass murder, that's what I will say. So what they were showing me is something that people need to be aware of. So when I saw this about this specific crystal that was shared about, and it's called shungite, right? Shungite is a black crystal that's basically a high density of carbon, right? So there's different percentages. But I was asking, I wanted to see a bigger picture. What does the crystal actually do? So what they were showing me is that carbon is like, it has the kind of, it's almost like what they were showing me is that all energy that's being put out there, it kind of like searches is discharge, right? It searches something to unify with. So when there's this almost like in the air, like you would call it static, and we're the ones who receive it. So human, that's carbon-based human, also acts as a part of this discharger. So this energy is not like evil, but the way it functions from a higher perspective, it's searching its discharge. And naturally, you kind of channel this energy, right? So they were showing me the crystals, especially there's pyramids of shungite you can get. And I'm going to do that right now as we speak. I'm going to put it everywhere. And where you sleep is important. Put it in where you have your wireless or whatever, you know, in devices, where you charge your devices. It's just very important. So they were showing me that this high carbon, the way it's built, the way it's structured, and it's a very old, it's not really crystal. It's just what it is, a natural material. We call it like that. So it's very well known, you know, that it can assist with that. But they were actually showing me how. So it's kind of like it invites in these frequencies so they can gather and they can have their discharge. So basically, if you think of it like that, from a very simple point of view, because if we're carbon and we're very dense, kind of like we gather a lot of this like a sponge ourselves. But now we're shifting. As you know, we're shifting more and more into crystalline form. Crystalline light body form merge with our current template. And this is what I'm going deeper now into, and with the course I'm doing with the new body. Because this, what they're showing me, is the only thing that makes us impenetrable, that makes us truly resilient. So not that we live in the resilient so-called cities, but we become the resilient body vessels or temples ourselves. So that's basically what we need to know here. So the more you actually work on yourself, becoming crystalline, going in nature, being with nature, working on refining your body, not eating dense foods. When there's pollutants, yeah, you have many superfoods. You have many natural remedies that assist this process. When you assist yourself, you actually assist your body to rise up this frequency level. And when the new bodies are actually created as a permanent platform, now we're kind of in this middle space. Then, like I said, our bodies will be, it's like your own body when it's intelligently created. It's no longer just manufactured like the body's now being recycled here on the planet. but it's simply an intelligent divine creation. It knows its source. And because it fully knows its source, it knows how to work with these energies. So because of that, we went through a stage of really adapting to this. We were very sensitive to these energies. Some of these energies caused some malfunctions in our bodies, but that was all part of our testing nature as well, because like they were showing me, our new bodies needed to have, it's almost like, you know, when you have a disease and you allow certain virus to enter, it's your body says yes. The body receives it because it wants an upgrade. So this is very similar. So our bodies needed a certain exposure to these frequencies so they knew how to manage them. And these crystals and all of that, they can assist. But eventually, you know, this is a point in transition. The best form of assistance is assistance we create ourselves as we're creating our new bodies. And that's quite a process. And because it's such a huge undertaking, and because now it's the most important theme and topic, I will be creating, like I said, this course. I haven't yet gotten to recording it because it was so much in things coming in between, and you know, unpredictable things and events even. So I believe in divine timing, because if something comes as an interruption, it means spirit wants it so. So I just went with the flow. It was so important that I think they didn't want me to miss out on anything. And I thought, I have this channeled and written and all of it, but it wasn't yet time. More was coming through. So I think they just wanted me to put everything in there so that it's all covered. And of course, I will create an update and I will inform you when this is so. I will actually work on this now more with in-depth. It will be my main focus. But I really want to show you that it's important for us to get as much grounded as we can, work with the elements, work with nature, realize what's happening. But nature is intelligent in a way that she adapts. And when we understand that our bodies, because right, nature receives through the sun, and our bodies are as well, are part of these natural cycles, we can also be assisted, but we have to see how. We have to have a greater understanding of this process. That's basically what they were showing me. Okay, so when you understand these things, I think life will be much easier. It won't be felt like, oh, we're under attack, it's all doomed, we're doomed, you know, like a panic. You will feel feelings when you connect, because global chakra, once is activated within you, you will feel. There's going to be certain days, like was today for us, we went out and the weather was sunny, we walked around this lake, but the energy felt heavy, even though it's just certain days, because you connect to what's happening. Sometimes it's somewhere else in the part of the world. So you are assisting. Our energy is so moving. It's so fluid. It's happening in these waves. So sometimes you're somewhere, a part of you is somewhere, but you're also somewhere else. So you might feel that, and you might not have a physical full clearance, like why is this happening? But you might have a sense of it and why this is so. So when these things come into your awareness, do the research, but then find your own place. Ground yourself in knowing your place and position in that. And understand this, like I said, globalism through unity. And through that, apply the best kind of techniques that guide you into building your own sovereignty and the sovereign new bodies that we're creating as these new templates, because that's the only thing that makes us truly resilient. It's nothing on the outside will ever create that. And it was such a mass point of deception to convince people that the planet we live on is dangerous, and it's the planet that we have to fight against. And you know, there's these diseases and outbursts and whatever, and volcanoes and all that, and this is such a lie. You know, a planet is just like, when you connect to the core, it's pure love. And when you have this planetary chakra within you, I made a video, I think it was last summer, about this level, this initiation. You will have this knowing. And because of that, you will know, because when you're in tune with the planetary consciousness, the planetary body will inform you through the intuition that's built within this process, will inform you whether the changes happening are really as a result of its new birthing and what the planet is transiting through, or is it something that it's being created artificially, inorganically. It's important for us to tell the difference, otherwise we don't really have knowledge. For you to understand what's happening, you have to understand the currents of energy that move through your body, which means all you have to do is master yourself. The rest will follow. And be really, really aware. So I brought the candle again, the red one, especially for those of you maybe who are part of this, not just indirectly involved, but also directly involved, or maybe know people who are, the highest position you can have is know this bigger picture. And there's people right now who really needed to hold this space for neutrality because there's such chaos in the world. And if you only have people who are chaotic, it brings the scales off. So we need the right amount of this higher consciousness that keeps this in flux, in motion, because then these higher plans don't have, like, there's not enough solidity that keeps them going in the right, sometimes I can't find the words, I'm sorry, but what they're showing me is like, even with this fluidity, you require a certain amount of stability. And that's why those of us who are doing the grounding, the pillar work, are so necessary and important. And sometimes you might just sit outside all day and wonder, like, what did I ever do? What do I even do? And you can do so much. That's what they're showing me. So keep on doing what you're doing, and know that it is a part of the new way, the new sovereign. The planet can't pay you with money, but the planet is so grateful. Because you're helping to liberate the life force that's being so controlled. The whole life force of the planet itself is wanting to be controlled, and that's basically the biggest crime against our very nature, is to trap spirit in a bodily form and say, we're going to completely control you. It's like it can no longer be what it is. So there's those of us who are required to do this part on the level and hold the space so that there can be liberation, so that pure life force, the spirit, can be embodied on the planet in a sovereign way with such love, with such care for its life forms that it builds, right, that it creates as its extension. And I will be sharing more in the upcoming free course, and it will be super awesome because I have so much there to share. But until then, I'm kind of tired. I think you can see and notice that. And I was out all day and still I came here to record. So maybe it helps some of you to get more relaxed, to have a higher understanding of what's happening now. We're in the middle of it. It's no longer like it's a prophecy, but you have to know even prophecies can be misinterpreted. And not all that we call the apocalypse is something from the outside. It's basically, it's happening right here, and it's from the within that it's happening. And sometimes it's just right in front of our noses, and that's it. And we wouldn't necessarily call it like that. We wouldn't say, wow, that's apocalypse, but it's a part of it. And a part of it is that unveiling, and part of it is physical, and it's physical changes. And not all of them are organic, but they're still there. There's still changes that we get to notice, we get to feel. We have feelings, right? We don't want to always be contained in these cages. So it's not just about people to rebel and start going in the streets and shouting and yelling, but it's for people to see that why they were making the choices to say that's okay. Because I'm sorry to say that, but there's still people who think that's okay. They would give all of their life responsibility away just so they wouldn't be in charge of their own lives. They would rather live in some controlled environment, just to have a sense of security and kind of belong in the space, to even question it for one moment. And then there's people like us who would rather die than give up our own sovereign life force. I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. It's just how it is. Once you're aware, you cannot go back. Blue pill, red pill, right? Maybe there's a third pill we haven't yet heard of, and maybe it's there. The pill of the unity of both, right? What's the color? Blue, red, it's actually violet. It does make sense, right? With the liberation of flame, the sacred violet fire. Something to think about here, although the candle is red. So anyway, guys, I love you so very much. I hope you come and join me in the heart, that you are joined, that, we get to share this space. I actually noticed that on Patreon, because like I said, I will be moving towards, especially the next coming year, which is basically just over 1 month or so. I'll be moving more of my content there, and I can also do live videos there, so many things. So I hope to see you there, to have you support my work there and be a part of my light team. Circle of Light, if you want. I call it Sisterhood and Brotherhood of the Initiated Ones, the Illumined Ones. And I always greet you in my heart space with such immense devotion and love for every single one of us. So thank you for being here, for dropping by and listening, because sometimes I can, talk a little confused because there's so much here. And I try to put it into linear form, and it's difficult for me, but I do my best, I hope. And if it serves you in some way and form, Thank you. And thank you for letting me know that, sharing some feedback with me. And as always, with love, wisdom, and power, take care, and I'll talk to you.